It's Tuesday, June 18th, Wednesday, June 19th, if you're on the East Coast, across the pond, or down under. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. They are coming. The Gavinator continues to build our website. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Mighty Moose Beard Oil Company. It's 100% Canadian, 100% natural, taking care of beards around the world. Visit MightyMooseBeard.com. Use promo code SOR2019 today. What is Sasquatch? And should we be spending time, grants, and money researching an unknown bipedal creature? That's something up for debate as the legend of Sasquatch continues to this day, and the argument, pro and con, is still just as heated as it was after the legendary Patterson-Gimlin film released of the mighty Bigfoot 51 years ago. One person who believes this creature could exist is current Idaho State University professor, Dr. Jeff Meldrum. His interest in the footprints attributed to Sasquatch was piqued when he examined a set of 15-inch tracks in Washington in 1996. Now he's got a collection of over 300 in his lab and his houses, and it's all about trying to find this mystery primate. Dr. Meldrum is the author of Sasquatch, Legend Meets Science. Dr. Meldrum will be with us for the first hour, then in hours 2 and 3, British Columbia researcher Robert Kennedy is back to discuss investigative practices in the forest. Bottom of hour number 3, of course, the SOR Newswire. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight for the first time. I've been wanting to interview you for about 4.5 years now, and I'm so happy that we finally were able to hook up. Great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. It's my pleasure to be here.
How did you get that interest? Was it the footprints that you saw that you just figured, being an anthropologist, that it couldn't exist? Is that what brought the curiosity on for you?
Well, no, the seed of the possibility of its existence had been planted many years earlier when I was a youngster up in Spokane, Washington, and Roger Patterson came through with his documentary showcasing that notorious or infamous, how it would, depending on your perspective, 90 seconds, 60 seconds of footage. And I was fascinated. I was hooked at that age. That interest waxed and waned, of course, but and it was quite latent when I entered into academia. And so, sure, I was a bit indoctrinated and objective and skeptical of the circumstances. But I tell you, when you see a set of oversized, human-like footprints in the mud, it really sets you back on your heels, pardon the pun.
It really does.
Go ahead.
It really does. So when you saw these prints, and I've seen different size prints as well, it's very intimidating when you see the size that whatever happened to create those prints. You're looking at 300, 400 plus pounds, 7 to 8, 9 feet tall. It really is a creature that for its size, it's amazing that it's not seen or heard more.
Right, that's true. And I think that boils down to just the rarity, the unlikelihood of anyone running into one of these very rare and elusive creatures. It's when you consider, for example, here in my home state of Idaho, there's 25 to 35,000 black bear, and yet, I can count on one hand the number of times I've caught a glimpse of a black bear. It becomes more apparent why those encounters with Sasquatch are so rare when you consider there might be, 100, 200 bear for every Sasquatch that's out there, as one ballpark estimate. So that's one of the reasons. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it wasn't just the size, the enormity of the prints, which the first I saw were about 15 inches long, but it was they do exist reaction that floored me. I mean, here was evidence that I just simply categorically could not dismiss. And what a fascinating adventure to embark on. The realization that these stories of this gigantic and magnificent creature really did have a basis in reality.
What is your breakdown of this creature? Do you see it being docile? Do you see it being violent and aggressive? Does it matter where it is? Because, for instance, the Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest seem to be much larger than what we hear around the Beast of Boggy Creek or the skunk ape in Florida. What is your assessment of this creature?
Well, I think it's just like any other natural species, and we see some of the same trends in size. So the ecological principles, ecomorphological principles like Bergman's rule and Allen's rule may just apply as much to this creature. So yes, in the far north, they tend to be larger, bulkier, more mass per surface area as a means of conserving body temperature. And likewise, any large animal like that, I mean, if you say, just as an example, would you break down the behavior of a gorilla? They actually, our perception of them has morphed through time from Gargantua, the Ripley's or Barnum and Bailey's rather attraction, billed as the most terrifying creature on the face of the earth, to now they're the gentle giants. They're the poster children of endangered species everywhere. And I think the same sort of thing applies to Sasquatch. The more mysterious they are, the more enigmatic, and the more potentially monstrous, terrifying they are. The more we come to understand them and recognize the more typical pattern of an encounter with them. It's a pretty innocuous and actually sometimes rather boring event, except that it's often life-changing for the witness. Again, coming to the realization that such a creature, which they've been told does not exist, does in fact. So, I think that in various circumstances, if there's food involved, if there's offspring or a mate or territorial issues, then sure, they might be more aggressive, more bluster and bluff, but for the most part, they seem to be rather retiring and retreating, as described by the majority of eyewitnesses.
You sound like you are 100% convinced this creature exists, whatever it may be. Yet many of your colleagues and fellow scientists tend to still make fun of this creature. They tend to, say that throughout this amount of time that we have been here in North America and explored the woods and the wilderness, that there's no way this creature could have existed. We don't have a body. We don't have anything. What do you say to those arguments that are thrown at you? I would say probably on a weekly basis, a monthly basis?
Oh yeah, something like that. Well, there's a history to the perceptions, and there are different aspects. I mean, you touched on a couple of them, and one of them is what you might label as just the tabloid reaction, the depth of exposure or experience that even an academic has is sometimes limited to what they read in the checkout lane. But there's also some more profound historical trajectory, the influence of prevailing paradigms in anthropology. And one of those that had the greatest effect, as I reflect back, historically over the previous decades, is what was called the single species hypothesis. And in short, that simply was based on a number of principles and assumptions it was the notion that there could be only one culture-bearing hominin, upright primate, occupying that niche at a given time. And so, in 1967, that notion was at its heyday, and that was what Roger Patterson was facing when he brings his film to the altar of science. It didn't get a fair shake on its own merits. It was up against a notion, an assumption that precluded the very possibility that such a creature could even exist. Therefore, it had to be a hoax. And it was just a matter of coming up with some rationale for that hoax, explanation. Well, one of my favorite examples of how this attitude sort of colored or tainted perceptions was John Napier, who was a more open-minded primatologist of the time, and he was actually on the committee that viewed the Patterson-Gimlin film at the Smithsonian. So in '68, I think it was. And of course, the outcome of that review was that was essentially negative. It was thumbs down and off with its head, basically. And when he 5 years later, he himself was quite open-minded and considered the topic in some detail, along with the question of the Himalayan Yeti, and wrote a very objective book. He was unfortunately a little bit hamstrung by the paucity of information that he had to work with. But when it came to the film, in short, basically, he said the only basis upon which he could put his finger on the negative aspect was, he said, I look at it, and from the waist up, it looks essentially like an ape. But from the waist down, it looks typically human. And he's quoted in the book as saying, it's nearly inconceivable that such a hybrid of structure could exist in nature. Therefore, it must be hoaxed. So that was the basis. Well, interesting, because that book came out in 1972. And before that decade closed, we had much more by way of fossil evidence of the earliest hominin biped, particularly Lucy, Australopithecus afarensis, more of her pelvis and her knee and ankle, that clearly showed that she walked upright. And yet, in the popular press, the anthropologists were heard to say, look at her, from the waist up, she looks like a chimpanzee. But from the waist down, she looks typically human. Isn't it interesting how evolution has proceeded in this mosaic fashion, combining unexpected traits in one body? Well, now wait a minute. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that was the very basis of rejecting outright, in fact, the only basis, really, the only rational basis that could be offered for rejecting the Patterson-Gimlin film. I often wonder what would have been the outcome if Napier had waited another 5 years before he had published his book. What would have been his conclusion regarding the Patterson-Gimlin film at that point, in the light of discoveries of early hominin fossils? I mean, we could take a picture of Patty now, and we could use that as in an introductory anthropology text as an illustration of a robust Australopithecine from 3 to 1.5 million years ago, and it would be just fine if there was no preconception or if no one knew what that the recognizable reputation of that picture, of that image. That illustration would look like what we might expect. In fact, in one of my presentations, I juxtapose Jay Matterness's illustrations of robust Australopithecus from South Africa besides the Patterson-Gimlin film, and you would have thought that he looked at the film as a model for his depiction of a robust Australopithecine. So the film actually anticipated what we now understand about early hominin bipedalism, the combination of that small brain, toolless behaviors with the upright posture, the pelvis and lower extremity of a committed biped. It's really, really fascinating from that perspective.
I have to ask, in regards to the academic side of studying this, there's also a spiritual side from First Nations, American Indians, who believe that this creature has some sort of special powers. And we hear all about it, whether it's being interdimensional, being able to shapeshift. Those are two very popular idealisms with First Nations here in British Columbia, and I believe in Washington State as well. Is it hard to take your scientific analysis of what this creature could be to try and determine whether or not those theories of the First Nations could be real as well? And if not, where do you draw the line?
Right. Well, that's always difficult because, in Western cultures, we impose a rather hard and distinct boundary between those realms, justified or not. That's the constraints of the methodologies of empiricism, of science, being able to replicate experiences. I would point to other species for which Native American tradition also imbues sort of supernatural qualities and embellishments, if you will. But there's no escaping that there is a fundamental biological organism behind those legendary aspects. And that is what I fall back on. I mean, the thrust of my book is, as it's stated, is addressing that fundamental question. Is there simply, or at least, a biological species behind the legend of Sasquatch? So, sure, it's a delicate detente, and certainly I am respectful of the traditional beliefs and notions, but I hold them perhaps in a slightly different perspective.
Getting back to the academic side of everything, in 2016, you were involved with a Bigfoot conference down in the University of New Mexico, put on by Dr. Christopher Dyer. And the reason why I bring this up is some people, including one of the state's governors, I believe, or senators, was absolutely calling this type of conference that $7,000 was spent of taxpayer money on a grant, absolutely ludicrous type spending. And I don't think so. I'm a believer in Sasquatch. I think we need to be taking this subject a little bit more seriously. When you saw your colleague, Dr. Dyer, going through this, what was your reaction being a part of this?
Oh, it was strenuous. I wrote a very pointed letter to the university president. I did some research, found out about this ne'er-do-well journalist, this literally a hack journalist who had a reputation for sort of salacious type of reporting, and an ineffectual politician who was facing re-election, and saw this as a way to place his name in the spotlight, I guess, and thought he would get some positive attention out of it. And the reaction, their reaction was, as you point out, it was just superficial. It was sophomoric. It gave no recognition. I mean, that conference was an amazing event, if only from a cultural anthropological perspective. I mean, well over 80%, I would estimate, of the attendees were from the Navajo Nation. And they were very appreciative of the acknowledgement and the opportunity to share their perspective and to enlighten the rest of us, if you will, as to their traditional knowledge. The second day of that conference was a seminal event, in my opinion. It was an open mic type of a town hall meeting where the audience returned and had the opportunity to come up in front of the group and share their experiences. And for well over 4 hours, there were, which they permitted to be videotaped. There was the sharing of not only personal and family experiences, but insights into the traditional beliefs of the Navajo Nation and other local residents of that region. That is a tremendous resource, an opportunity that is rarely afforded. And so on that basis alone, I thought the event was a huge success. And eventually, Dr. Dyer and I are planning to write up some of the material that was gathered during that weekend. Now, there was never any action taken. I mean, the governor, made some gestures and so forth to placate the press and others, but Dr. Dyer eventually did step down from his position, not so much under pressure for that event, but just he was ready to go on to do other things, and quite honestly was a little fed up with the bureaucracy that this event brought to the surface and exposed a bit, perhaps. I also couldn't help but wonder if similar attitudes might surface in my own home state of Idaho. That wasn't the case, and has not been the case. And the administration of my university continues to be supportive of academic freedom and a recognition of the importance of pursuing questions that perhaps expand the boundaries of our understanding of science and the humanities.
And that really is the point, is we don't know what is going on, as we're about 30 seconds away from break here at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Meldrum, but we don't know, and science is supposed to be about figuring that answer out.
Absolutely. I mean, I get, I'm a little chagrined by colleagues who only write grant proposals for questions that essentially they know the answer to. I mean, I think that that's important to do that legwork. But on the other hand, for me, the attraction, the allure of science, even as a youngster, was always the frontier. It was the edge of discovery, of new knowledge, pushing that boundary as far as you can take it.
That's right.
To break out of the box.
Dr. Jeff Meldrum is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have him for one more half hour here, so make sure you stay tuned. We're going to try and sneak in a couple questions from you as well, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch. Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the Captain's Chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always catch them on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We are working on adding new features as we speak. The Gavinator is on it. You can go there to get all of your SOR Newswire news as well. Captain Shirk's keeping us up to date. We only have Dr. Jeff Meldrum for another half hour, but we are talking Sasquatch all night here on Spaced Out Radio. Dr. Meldrum, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Pleasure.
The fact that academia continues to debate whether or not this creature exists is one portion of this, but we have a lot of people out there who are researching this creature or have an encounter by happenstance. Is it important to try and get these areas narrowed down so we can find some sort of tracking system and follow this creature to where it is going? Because there is so little information that is out there in the public. A lot of people just don't know what to do if they want to try and find this creature.
Well, sure. And, you know, I encourage people to go out there and make a serious effort to intentionally have an encounter. But you're right, almost all encounters are by happenstance. And so it becomes kind of a numbers game. If we get more observers, potential observers, who have a little background, who have educated themselves in identifying wildlife sign and recognizing vocalizations and bumps in the night and so forth, tracks, then we have a real source, essentially a research team of citizen scientists who are able to identify and distinguish and objectively evaluate reliable evidence that is useful. I don't know that we'll ever be to the point that we can, track individuals other than by recognizing repeat appearances of recognizable footprints. And we certainly have numerous examples of that. But, again, if you just reflect on more common forms of wildlife and methodologies employed in wildlife studies, there are many animals out there that are extremely difficult to study for that reason. Things like wolverines, martens, and fishers, these more rare and elusive carnivores, as I point out, even bears. I mean, without the advantage of radio telemetry and tracking technologies, we would hardly know about the day-to-day habits and movement patterns of even the more common black bears. So we're a long ways off from having that kind of intimate knowledge. I think our first goal is a sample, a DNA sample, or even better, but less likely, someone walking in with a piece of a jaw or a molar tooth, or or a hunter maybe shooting one, or a truck driver running into one. That rare instance where people act on the situation and make sure that the evidence gets into the proper hands.
Do you think the reason why we haven't found a body yet, or even parts of it, is because maybe they are burying the bodies? Maybe there is a real level of intelligence in this creature to stay away from humans?
Right. Well, I certainly to stay away from humans. going to that level of burying their own dead, that's a behavior that didn't appear in human evolution until very, very recently. And while it's possible, I think it rather unlikely, especially given the fact or the inference that they are largely semi-solitary or completely solitary, where males defend the territory, females are separate, except when dependent offspring are in tow. In that situation, to try to imagine a scenario where an individual that is old and decrepit and dies a totally natural death, no accident involved, nothing to incapacitate it unexpectedly, how does it notify the next of kin that there's a burial, on the calendar needs to be undertaken? I think that's less likely, in my opinion. It's not a jump at all to assume that an animal like that, like I said, that dies a natural death, secretes itself out of the way, some nook or cranny. The decomposers and scavengers, gnawers and chewers go to work, and then the abiotic aspects, the agents, acidic soils, and so forth, just make short work of remains. I mean, you talk about numbers again. I had a friend who was from Wisconsin, and just because I have those numbers on the tip of my tongue, but he asked a DNR officer one time, what's the estimated winter kill of deer in Wisconsin? And it was in the tens of thousands. Yet you don't go stumbling over carcasses in the spring when you go out on a hike or, in the following year. Nature takes care of those things and cleans up, So compare that to the very rare event of a Sasquatch dying. I mean, if these are rare, long-lived, naturally dying individuals, a death may be a very rare event. I've cited 25 to 35,000 black bear in Idaho. I would estimate there's only several hundred Sasquatch in Idaho. And so how many of those several hundred are in their golden years? I mean, how many times does the Sasquatch die in the entire state of Idaho? Idaho has more wilderness area than any other state in the lower 48. So say one dies every year, go that liberal. One body in the entire state of Idaho in a year. What are the odds that someone's going to be out there and find that? And even when you think year after year after year, that's talk about a needle in a haystack. That's a needle in hundreds of haystacks that you're trying to stumble upon. If the needle even persists for very long, it's vanishing and reappearing somewhere else. So I think I don't think you have to appeal to extraordinary explanations. I think that the rather mundane explanations, with a little reflection, are very adequate, and until those are no longer adequate, until it can be argued that they aren't, I don't think one's justified in jumping to the other extremes without some pretty concrete or persuasive evidence that that's the case.
So with that, do you believe that we are dealing with a migratory species? Do you feel that we are dealing with a species that has the ability to maybe procreate every number of years instead of like a human? We could procreate every 11, 12 months, so to speak.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And our potential for that. I mean, and that is the case primarily in places where the food base and everything is conducive to maximize that fecundity, that ability to reproduce. I think that this, better comparisons rather than to humans would be to other large apes, in which case, take an orangutan, for example. The females only give birth every maybe 4 to 8 years. And so I think that they are much more widely spaced. when they're nursing their young, and so they don't come back into estrus, into heat, immediately after birth, basically. There's a period when they're just not interested. Given their solitary behavior, again, if we take the orangutan example, the orangutan male defends a territory. He doesn't defend a harem of females like a gorilla does, but rather territory. And the females, when they're receptive, they seek out that dominant male, the one that's able to advertise his presence and keep at bay all other pretenders who are working up the ranks. So I think that's a reasonable comparison. Now, that kind of territoriality suggests that they're not migratory in a broad sense, but they probably have a very large home range. It could easily be on the order of 1,000 square miles, depending on the resources and productivity and topography, etc. And they're constantly moving through as they deplete or as new resources come into availability. And so I think that's the basis for the kind of pattern of sighting that we see, where there'll be a flap of sightings and then maybe nothing, sometimes for a couple of years, as they're cycling through different regions and different areas that they may or may not be coming into contact with humans. Now, certainly within that, there may be seasonal elevational movements with snowpack and winter climate. But other than, we've got good evidence of repeat appearance of recognizable individuals within an area of about 1,000 square miles. I don't have any examples of recognizably identifiable individuals over huge areas, like, one that was seen in Vancouver Island showing up in Northern California next year. We just don't have any examples of that. And we're getting a pretty good footprint record that allows for that, some sensitivity to that detail of observation. It's rough. Obviously, it's rough, and by no means is our data collection systematic or comprehensive at all. I don't mean to suggest that in the least, but you get a few glimpses into some regions, and some have better tracking conditions that, for example, the Blue Mountains in southeastern Washington had a lot of unimproved roads, high lust content in the soil, which made for excellent tracking conditions. And so there was a rather inordinate number of examples of footprints. And again, that's one place we have really good evidence of repeat appearances of particular recognizable individuals. That makes for some interesting hypothesis testing.
You mentioned a few minutes ago about you believe there are hundreds of Sasquatch in Idaho State alone. How did you come up with that number?
Well, by taking what clues we have and then also working within and sort of an inferential framework that this creature is a biological creature that's part of the evolutionary radiation of hominoids, of which the great apes and humans are members. So bracketed within those anatomies and behaviors, what analogies can we draw? We have evidence from, let's back up one step. Based on footprint finds and eyewitness encounters, it seems reasonable to conclude that they are solitary or semi-solitary, maybe only forming transient consort pairs when females are receptive to the presence of a male. But otherwise, it's lone males, adult males, and maybe like gorillas sometimes form these juvenile or subadult, not juvenile, but subadult male bands. They're not big enough to oust one of the silverbacks, or in the case of the orangutans, they're not big enough, bulky enough to oust one of the big alpha male orangutans from his territory. So they just bide their time, hang out, you're just a bachelor group. And then you have the females, in the case of the orangutan, you have the females with one or two offspring still in tow. Then with that, social structure, using the analogy of the orangutan as a social structure, and there might be others. I mean, you have 3 great apes, and you have 3, or let's say 4, with the bonobo, common chimp, gorilla. We'll just lump the gorillas together and lump the 2 species of orang. Are fairly similar in their social structure. But those 4 have totally different social structures. And so the variety is extreme, and that may represent just a fraction of the diversity that existed when there were hundreds of species of apes back during the Miocene and so forth. So, this creature could conceivably have a different model, but I think the orangutan makes a good point of departure. Then, if you consider that we have evidence from repeat appearances of recognizable individuals that suggests a home range on the order based on their movements, or the dispersion of these recognizable footprints, of about 1,000 square miles. So just for the sake, of creating a null hypothesis to test, let's assume 1,000 square miles, and that's the male's home range, which overlaps that of several females. So you've got the dominant male, you have, say, 3 females, and maybe 4, 5 young adults, or juveniles or infants in tow. The young adults are on the fringes, perhaps, so there's a little wobble in the numbers, but just for the sake of discussion. Now, we also know, and this was pointed out as early as, John Green's early musings, noticing a high correlation between the habitat and its dependence on precipitation levels and credible Sasquatch reports that you need about 16, 18 plus inches of precipitation in order to support a reasonable habitat. So if you take Idaho and you look at the map, where is there that much precipitation annually? And you've got the Panhandle down to about mid-state, north of the Salmon River, especially down a little lower, it starts to get marginal. The sawtooths aren't very dense forests, and this isn't going to be homogeneous. Certainly, it's going to be a lot of heterogeneity and variation in geology and elevation and topography, etc. But if you just look at the map and then the rainfall map, how many 1,000 square mile plots, circles could you, or plats could you fit on the map? And you come up with about 15 in Idaho, give or take. Again, just rough. So 15, let's say what did we say? 1 male, 3 females, there's 4. Add on another, let's just say 10. If you have 10, then 10 times 15 is what? 150 Sasquatch. Well, there are people out there who's going to say, well, there's more than that. That's too conservative. You got those juvenile or those subadults on the fringes and whatnot, and you could probably pack them in tighter than I've drawn them. So just double it for the sake of conversation. So there's 300. Still, we know the estimate for black bear in Idaho is 25,000 to 35,000. So still, even if you double that or treble it, you're still talking about hundreds versus tens of thousands with black bear. So anyway, that's and if you repeat that process, for states like Washington, people sometimes forget half the state of Washington is sagebrush. Likewise, half of Oregon is sagebrush. So you've got the Cascade Range, you've got the Blue Mountains in eastern Oregon, you've got the northern all the way down the Rockies. I mean, we talked about the Navajo Nation. There's sightings of Sasquatch and appropriate habitat all the way down into the southern Rockies of northern Arizona and New Mexico. So a rule of thumb, we keep talking about the comparison with black bear.
Yes.
Black bear is another omnivore, needs somewhat similar types of resources. And so a pretty good working rule of thumb is that if there is a sustained black bear population, then there's a reasonable chance there might be Sasquatch there as well, at least as a starting point. The flip, I think, is also true. If human cultivation and expansion and habitat degradation and hunting pressure has decimated the black bear population in what was once a historic part of their range, chances are that those bumps in the night that people are experiencing are not Sasquatch. Glowing eyes and bumps in the night and localization. So people who go out in those areas that are rather questionable and have routine weekend activity, one has to maybe look at that a little more skeptically.
We only have time for about one more question here, Dr. Meldrum, as I know you got to get going at the top of the hour. We got about 90 seconds left. Do you believe this creature is a violent creature if encountered, or do you believe that it is something that is going to get the heck out of there if it starts seeing people? So should people be afraid?
Yeah. I don't think people need, I don't think people need to be afraid. I mean, you give it deference as you would any large animal out in the woods. And as I said, most encounters are remarkably mundane. But having said that, there's a deep tradition amongst Native American populations that suggest a more nefarious side of, snatching of children and abducting of women and dispatching warriors and so forth. Those are often based on rather singular events, I believe. But then, of course, you have those who attribute all sorts of missing persons to the action, or at least insinuate the possibility of the action of Sasquatch. And I guess, if something nefarious happens, other than a missing person report, there's no one to attribute it to Sasquatch, is there? Other than those back home who might be so inclined to point the finger. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think, I hate to say with absolute certitude that you don't have anything to worry about, but I suspect that more likely than not, it's again just like the stories about the great apes. The natives had stories about gorillas being these terrible monsters, but it's when you're throwing spears at someone, you shouldn't be surprised when they get a little upset.
Exactly. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. I hope we earned your trust and respect to have you back for a little bit longer next time. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we have researcher Robert Kennedy. Let's get into investigative techniques in the forest for Sasquatch right after this.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacy, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com. Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hey fans, it's Dave Scott. Do I have something for you to check out? A great documentary about legendary Mexican investigative journalist Jaime Maussan and his search for the truth about UFOs. Beyond the Spectrum, Maussan's UFO files can be found on Amazon Prime. It's free to watch if you're a member. You might even hear me in it. So check out Beyond the Spectrum, only on Amazon Prime. The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, Melinda Leslie joins us to talk about today's ufology, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, KDUN AM 1030 in Bridgeport, Oregon, and in Noonan, Georgia, WQEE 99.1 FM. On the digital side, Revolution Radio, good to have you with us. We also, on Revolution Radio, want to give a quick shout out here because one of our loyal, longtime fans on there, we called him Man Olive. He passed away just a couple of days ago, and we wanted to give a big heartwarming sincerity to all of our Revolution Radio fans who have known and chatted with Man Olive over the years in the chat room there. From what I've learned, I only knew him as a fan of the show. He was always very nice and cordial with me in the chat room, loved Spaced Out Radio, but I didn't know him personally. But I know a lot of people in the Revolution Radio chat room did. So sincere condolences to all of his family and from all of us at Spaced Out Radio to the Revolution Radio family. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the Gavinator is working on things very, very quickly to get them up and running. So please stay tuned. We're going to be adding new features very, very soon. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Cynicocratical. Cynicocratical is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. We're going to continue the Bigfoot talk as a good friend of mine, fellow researcher here in British Columbia, where I live in the central part of the province, where we are literally surrounded by forest and Bigfoot everywhere. Mr. Robert Kennedy, former member of the BFRO and current independent investigator, hanging out with me and my buddies, Mark and Mikey in the forest. Robert, welcome back to the show.
Dave, great to be back.
It's always a pleasure to have you here, my friend. Hey, we're not meeting at a Dairy Queen for once, chomping on some ice cream and burgers to talk Sasquatch. We're actually doing it on the radio. This is a lot more fun. Although we could use some ice cream.
I could use some ice cream. And I know that a burger or two would help too. Yeah, we're here. We're on the radio, and I'm excited to be back and to give it some new ideas.
What I wanted to talk to you about, because we just had Dr. Jeff Meldrum on for hour number 1, and I know you tuned in for that, in regards to what we are dealing with. He believes we are dealing with some sort of primate that is in North America. He stated in Idaho alone, he feels there's approximately around 600, and they are starting to notice patterns. They are starting to recognize the patterns, whether it's through footprints or other means. Do you believe there is a large number of these creatures in North America?
Well, that's a debatable question. Is there not? And in the research that we've done on the coast, on the Sunshine Coast, we were lucky enough to have an area that was surrounded by water and really kept them in a 100-mile area. In that 100-mile area, in our research, we found that there were 5 family groups. And now there's a land bridge that goes over to the mainland. And the odd period of time, people would have experiences of them crossing land bridge. But we counted that in each group, we estimated that there were between 3 to 4 that were in each group. So in a 100-mile range, lucky enough that we were able to put that number out. Now, has that changed? Possibly. Has it grown? Possibly. We know that the territories that they roamed in, they seldom didn't want to cross those territories. Now you ask, how do we know that? We put out people that each night that we had investigations or a group that went out, we mapped it out. We gave everybody written everything down. Everybody that had encounters wrote it all down, and so they were able to explain when they came back, this is what took place. We did the footprint thing, and some people had some sound recordings and stuff like that. So when you have a group of people that are spread in a 100-mile area that were able to have interactions, I know Jeff would say, "Wow, would be pretty skeptical," and it's true. It can be pretty skeptical, but that's what we went on. And where else can you go on?
I agree. And just so you know, we are testing out the whole Skype system with Robert. Robert, at the bottom of the hour, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch you over to your landline, if that's okay, and we'll do it that way, because it is a little bit tinny and hard on the ears for the audience, but we'll get through it until the bottom of the hour. In regards to where this creature lives, how it is surviving, the numbers of it, considering the size of this creature, would have to be pretty spread out. And even though there is a lot of uncharted wilderness in North America, especially in the Pacific Northwest where we are located, do you believe that these creatures are solitary type creatures, like Dr. Meldrum said, or do you believe they are living in mini groups or packs or families, but for the most part living a life of solitude away until they maybe mature to that breeding age?
Well, what our experiences were is that we noticed that the family group, how can I explain it? The females would come around with their youngs, and we would notice the smaller prints, the larger prints, the interactions that we had. Definitely always had 1 or 2 in the group, so we knew that there was a female and 2 younger ones most of the time. In that, we noticed that the older males would go on a rogue, on a hunt, or they would be separated for a period of time. But we also knew that they would come together too also. The other thing that in the investigations we found were that they would come to, the younger ones would be separated in the early part of the spring. Now, did they come back together in the later part when, say, the salmon begin to run and they begin to get together to go down to the beaches, to go down to the rivers? We noticed that they came together. So, yes, there was separation. Yes, there was solitude. That's about as much as we can give, right? There's more to be learned and more to be understood also.
Hey, Robert, I'm getting a little bit of feedback on this end. I'm going to call you right back here to see if we can get a little bit of a cleaner feed here. So just bear with me for a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to call you right back because I want to make sure that your words aren't lost by the really bad echoing and tinniness that we're getting. So just bear with me, okay? All right, we're going to bring Robert right back here in just a quick second here because we do want to make sure that we have proper audio for him. That was just getting a little too hard on our ears there for a quick second. But nonetheless, you know what's weird is he only lives like a few miles away from me. I can't believe the signal is that bad. Can't believe the signal is that bad. Weird. But we're going to clean this up a little bit here. We're going to clean this up.
Okay.
All right, we got you here. We got you much better, much better. So with this Sasquatch creature that we are dealing with, okay, there's a lot of pseudoscience behind it outside of what people like Dr. Meldrum and a few others, and I mean a very few others, are actually conducting out there. So when you're out in the field, Robert, as a citizen scientist or a researcher that is out looking for this creature, how do you develop your own game plan trying to figure out what you're going to be looking for?
Well, the first thing we do is we want to hear about sightings, and we want to go into those areas, and we want to begin to travel the trails. We want to listen to hear any how do you explain it? We want to go out there and we want to follow the trails. We want to see stuff that represents them. We want to go and look for tree structures. Then we want to spend that time in that area and do some calls and some knocks and wait for responses. What I do for myself is that a lot of times I'll go in at night, I will sit there and I will be quiet. I'll let them react around me and let them do their thing first. And we'll know if they're in the area. We'll know if they're staying in the area. We'll do several nights in a row. And if we find that they're not in that area at the time, then we'll travel. We'll make our way around that we believe that this is their territory.
How do you build that communication, that trust?
It takes a period of time. Sometimes in some areas it takes years. Sometimes it only takes months. When we had our campground, it was built within a number of months. Outside the campground, there are areas where, like at Chapman Creek, it took us almost 2 years to build the trust. I mean, we had these creatures in that area coming to our property, and I was going up into the power line. I actually even took that area and made it our own. Like, I had to go to the BC Hydro and get an application to hold that area under our name so that we didn't have other people going into it. The big thing would wreck that trust would be the logging, the trees being cut down, the forest being removed, and then it would have to restart almost over again. They would recognize our vehicles. They would recognize the sound of our vehicle, just like your dog at home. They would recognize our voices. I even believe that they recognized our personalities. In Chapman Creek, after several years, that we didn't do any investigations there, we were able to go there and call them, and they would return the calls, and they would come and meet us almost, not face to face, but probably in a 50-yard difference. They would come and do their knocks. They would come and throw their stones, and so it took a while in different areas to be able to get their trust. Once we established that trust, we were able to almost be able to reach out and pass them the baton. In the No Name Lake area, we were able to win that trust, but it took several years there again. We had to be really quiet. We couldn't react with them. This went on for at least 2 years, where we had to stay very, very quiet. If we reacted in any manner, any way towards them, they would just shut us out. Once the logging took place over top of that area, and this was in a dense forest when we first started, and it was deep into a swampy area. After a few years that they got to trust us, we'd be able to sit there during the daytime and hear them in the distance and be able to call them, and they would come. We were able to record those happenings.
When you look at the way things are going today, with the way research is up and running, do you believe that we sit there and take this creature for granted, take it for something that is out there, but we just haven't been able to have that piece of evidence yet that really, really stands out? Or has that evidence been found, but it just hasn't gotten into the proper hands?
I think there's a lot of evidence that's out there that's being withheld. Again, I think there's people out there that have things that maybe don't want to be able to be the laughing stock. But at the same time, this is where it kind of gets me a little bit, that we put so much time and effort over the years. There's over 20 some odd years of working, and like, we don't say that we're looking. We say that we're working with the creatures and the animals here. So how can I answer that without it sounding silly? Or, a lot of people, I don't think, really want to take this serious enough to say, these animals do exist out there. And the ones that are out there researching, and this is going to sound a little bit of a shot in the shoulder to other researchers, but a high percentage have really made it a bit of a joke. And I don't know if they realize that. I think they go off the top of their head, not understand about science and about researching correctly and properly. And I know I'm putting my foot out there, but you really got to look at this really seriously. I was contacted not too long ago by some people that give me some images that just put stuff out there that wasn't even real. And they wanted me to look at this and agree with them that this stuff was real. And they picked the wrong fella to really hoax around, because it's just not. There's a lot of stuff that's out there that is just not real, and it's sad to say that these things are happening, and it really kind of puts the pressure on people like yourself, like me, or Jeff, or Binger Negro when he was alive, that they're fighting an uphill battle to say, that there's a living creature that does exist in the forest, and the Native Americans that have had them, over thousands of years have had interactions with these creatures. I believe that because of Europeans coming into North America has put a bit of an onslaught against the creatures, where they want to stay away. There was more of a interaction with Native Americans. There was almost if you get right into some of the folklore, there was almost a trade that was happening. And you heard the other warring, and like Jeff had said, taking women and children. In Sechelt, we've heard the same stories. We believe that Sechelt has bones locked up in their basement, but they won't allow anybody to take them out. So they and they have a bit of a part of their heritage and part of their relationship, a spiritual relationship with these animals, is really sacred. So things like that is almost hard to get a hold of. And I know that they have bones because I was told that they're in the basement in two separate boxes. So, again, it's really, is it real? Yes. Are they out there existing? Yes. How can we scientifically prove it? Like Jeff said, without a body or without DNA. But like what we said in the past is, we will take you out and we'll show you that these animals exist, and you can determine on your own if you believe it or not. I don't know if that helps in any manner tonight.
Well, it is something that we always look at here on the show, because we only got about 2 minutes left before we got to go to break. The creature itself, the size of it, especially here in British Columbia, it is, and in Washington State, for instance, Oregon, Idaho, we're looking at creatures between 7 and 9 feet tall, sometimes reports up to 10, 11 feet tall. That's a big creature to hide. How do you think it's doing it? Give us a rundown in about 90 seconds.
How are they doing it? It's called deep in the forest. They're not that so far in. I've heard of 12-foot creatures in Maple Ridge area, up there on the Sunshine Coast. I think we've had them large as 9 feet tall. It's the forest. It's the coverage. It's the camouflage. We used to have them 20, 30 feet away from us. Couldn't see them in the forest. So they're there. If they want to be known, they'll make themselves known. If they want to be quiet, it's like big, huge elk or moose. They're standing right there, but yet you can't see them. And it's the same with these creatures. They're their habitat, and they're well adapted to it.
That's very impressive. It is very impressive how they can just appear and disappear. You believe, though, that it is natural camouflage over some sort of healthy issue. Like, so let's say, I shouldn't say healthy issue, but let's say like shape-shifting or something along those lines.
I try to avoid that. And the reason is what kind of proof can I give that's substantial enough to say, hey, there's some kind of a spiritual thing happening here. We've had some things that did happen in the forest that is unexplainable. But how can I come out with that and say, this is really what's going on?
Absolutely. Robert Kennedy is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to continue the Bigfoot talk right after this. Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekends. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thor, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Reminder, if you've missed portions of this show and others, you can always catch our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. That's where we store our archives for free. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. And our website, spacedoutradio.com. It's currently under construction. You can view all of our SOR Newswire news and listen to the show there as well if you want to check it on out. More features coming from the Gavinator very, very soon. We're talking Sasquatch tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Our guest, Robert Kennedy, British Columbia Sasquatch researcher. Robert, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Dave.
Not a problem. Great to have you here. There's a lot of people who say, I want to go out in the wilderness. I want to track Sasquatch. I want to see this thing. I want to get that next video. But there's a lot of people out there who believe that they just want to have that sort of experience, to be in the very few who've had an encounter of some kind with the mythical creature. How does someone go looking for Sasquatch?
Well, I would say there's a couple ways of, you're going to have a serious researcher that's going to go into the forest, and he's going to look up the waterways. He's going to look for vegetation. He's going to really set his mind to get deep into the forest and spend time there, spend time in the foliage, and really have himself camouflaged and hidden out. But then, for the average person that's going out during the summertime, who's camping, who's wanting to have, who's got an interest, wanting to have an interaction. There is a lot of places in North America that these creatures have been found and seen and heard in. Now, I'm going to start off with the basis of what you should be doing. You want to begin to get away from the campsites, even though they come to the campsites and parks. You want to be able to get away from them. You want to be able to get into a place where it's very quiet, not many people that are entering in. You want to look for foliage. You want to look for deer tracks, deer signs. One of our areas, we always looked to see if there was movement of deer through that area. If they were there, we always would find bones and stuff like that of deer, because that's what they hunt. We would look for the foliage, vegetation. Certain swamps has certain different kind of vegetation from. We would look for this plant that would have almost like a white rice on it. And so when we found these areas, we would go in these areas, be very quiet, spend some days in there again, like I was saying earlier. But we'd also begin to walk the game trails, and we would look for signage. Now, you get into a snowy area, you're going to see bent-over trees, broken trees, and you're going to see a ton of that because of snow. But in the summertime, we're looking for fresh breaks. We're looking for sticks that are in the ground. We're looking for sticks that are twisted and broken. We're looking for bent-over trees that are tied in salal or have logs put on them. We're looking for rocks, displayed rocks. We're looking for, animal parts, believe it or not, that are gathered together, that have been gnawed on, chewed on. We look for other structures. We look for fallen trees. We look underneath these fallen trees to see if anything has been staying there, seeing that the ground has been pushed down, the needles are pushed in the ground. We're looking for the footprints. We're looking offset too of the game trails and roadways to see if the creatures have been walking along the side. We're looking for impressions of the ground. So we're doing a lot of different other sort of things and bringing everything and compiling everything together. Once you find these areas that you're pretty sure that these creatures could be moving into, the evidence there, I always say this, is the evidence has got to compile together. You've got to have foliage, stuff that they eat. John Bingernagel, in his book, he wrote a lot about that. You're going to find footprints. Once you find these footprints, it's not you're going to find one or maybe two. You're going to find several impressions in the ground. They're not always going to look like toes and heel marks in the ground. They're just going to be an impression. You're going to follow these things. You're going to look for stumps that are pulled apart, like bears will pull apart stumps. But these creatures do the exactly same thing. So you're going to just put this all together. You're going to spend some time there, and you're going to go there during the evening and be very, very quiet and wait to hear knocks, wait to hear calls back and forth. When they move through the forest and they're working together when they're hunting during the night, being nocturnal mostly, you're going to hear them knocking back and forth. And this is a bit of a language. I say it's a bit of a language to it. Most people hear one or two knocks, but we've been able to tell the repetitive knocks and how many knocks and what they mean or where they're moving and how they move in the forest. You're going to look up valleys and creekways. You're going to spend that time. People say, well, we never really get to see them. Well, they're in behind these gorges and rock shelters, and they're moving through creek beds and through valleys that are in the forest. So these are the things that we're doing, and we're trying, and we're just doing simple tracking and simple techniques to be able to arouse them and to get them to react to us.
A lot of people will say when it comes to nature can do some pretty funny and funky things. How do you know that a fallen tree that falls into another one and then another one falls that looks like a teepee? How do you know that's not just Mother Nature, a heavy windstorm going in different directions and old trees or dead trees that are just falling onto one another?
And that's a great question. It's a beautiful question because you ever walk into a forest and there's a slight breeze and then you begin to hear the trees sing to one another? And a lot of people will mistake that for creatures, different animals. And all it is just a wind moving through the tops of the trees, and they're making noises while the tree is bending and shifting. And it's almost, I call it like the singing lady of the forest. We been in many forests where it's just hemlock. And the hemlock and the different ages of the trees, they fall apart, they crack and they break from the heat to the cold. They fall down. It can become dangerous. But when these creatures are building little A-frame structures, and we believe these A-frame structures are kind of camouflageable that they use to be able to hunt with, we can never really prove that. trees do fall into teepee formations, but they use different type of trees or old trees, and they gather the old tops, and they gather trees together and they put them together. Now, there have been some big structures that have come together that we've looked at them, and we've seen trees where they're tipped upside down. They're not huge, but they're 10, 12 feet long, and the roots are standing upwards. And they do things in a unique pattern. They will, in an area, sit and you'll see actually bum marks in the ground. But, you got to be really careful that you're not calling this and that. How can I say it? I'm getting a little ahead of myself. You want to make sure that when you go into an area that, again, that these things all line up. Like we researched this one area where their structures, it was old trees. They were actually cut down from hydro, but they used them in such a way. And then there was rocks that were there. And then there was trees that were above the ground about a foot and a little bit above about a foot and a half that were woven together. And we believed that this was so that if they hit a deer with a rock, that the deer would become lame and try to run through the trees and break its legs. And now, believe it or not, we would find not a lot of them, but we would find broken leg bones that were out in the forest. Now, it's like Jeff said, there's 10, 20,000 deer that are killed a year, and you're not finding very many of the skeletons. And it's true, you don't. But we've been lucky enough to find these things to help us with our theories and research.
For food, what are you looking for? Are you looking for plants? Are you looking for bugs? Are you looking for bark that's ripped off trees at, say, a 10 to 12 foot mark on a tree higher than the average black bear can reach? Are you looking for carcasses that may have weird bite marks out of it? What are you looking for?
We've been lucky enough, again, to find animals that were dead on the side of the road, and then we'd hear the creatures in behind them. But what I'm going to say is what you're looking for is each time of the year, you're looking, especially for berries, types of berries like huckleberries, salmonberries, blackberries that were on the coast. It's going to be different in the interior places. Where you're going to find Saskatoon berries, you're going to find squawberries. One of the biggest places that we'd find these creatures in, it would be late September. We're in the salal bushes, and if you ever had a salal berry, it's very tart, very unsweet, but yet they would be eating them, and they would also be lying down in these. And what we found that we did some research on some of it, on some of these salal, and they were actually could be used as repellents for bugs or for maybe ticks or lice. That they would be in these patches. But again, in late September, these berries off the salal bushes were ripe and begin to be edible at that point in time. Oregon grape plants we found during the winter time after the berry has dropped off. We found that they would be eating the root of the Oregon plant, Oregon berry plant. So again, during salmon, when the salmon begin to run, we found them congregating along the river like bears do. Of course, they're not being seen, but yet you would hear them. We had one place in it was Chapman Creek, where people were going down the creek, hearing these knocks and bangs, and actually rocks being banged up against the side of the caverns in some of the deep holes. And we speculated that these creatures were banging on the rocks to shock the fish and so maybe the fish floated up and they grabbed them. We also I was going to say here, during the early springtime, just as when the skunk cabbage is coming out, certain skunk cabbage have a flower, and then they have a nut that's within that flower come out. And it seems like they would gather those up in the beginning of the springtime. We found that just in the spring also, just as the nub of an alder tree were coming out, they were pulling down the branches and eating them. Again, also we found the pine nut that they were eating. So there's a lot of vegetation that's out there. There are certain types of, like we've found in a lot of our areas, a lot of strawberries, little small strawberries. And again, when these things become ripe, we find them in there. And you know, here's a really good one where we went into this one area and repetitively, the old apple tree that was in this old homestead was always picked, but there was never any bears around. And there were never, ever any apples on the ground, but yet nobody went and pick this. Nobody, no bears were there to knock break the branches, but yes, that apple tree was always picked. And so they would go to these certain areas and pick these things and eat it. So there's several different, with stumps. We found that they would sit at a stump and they would pull a log or a stump apart in a unique way, not like a bear would with the claws and rip it all apart, but they would strip it. They would peel it back. And when we looked at that stump or that log that was on the ground, we would find that sometimes on the backside, facing the north or facing the west, they were getting the little white grubs that were in there. They were getting that off the stump. So they were feeding on different things. And another one that I was shocked on was I went into an alder forest that they're quite big alder and they're quite rotten, bugging, but we were finding salamanders, and yet we had some of our best encounters within that forest. And so why were they there? We believe that they were there for the salamander that were living just under that bark and that wet forest and coming up off the forest floor.
So do you believe then that they are foragers?
Yes, I do. I believe in the wintertime, for them to survive, they settle down. I think that they gather and store. I can't prove that. But I want to theorize that how are they surviving through the winter without hibernating? We do find their prints in the snow. We do find them moving around at times. One year it got really warm at Christmas, and it was Christmas Day. It went from being on the West Coast, it went from being -1, -2 to 14 plus. All of a sudden, they showed up. And usually during the wintertime, we wouldn't have nothing until about mid-February, March, when they begin to start to move. So I think that they actually do forage, gather together. We had a lady that told us that she was seeing them on the beach in Secret Cove and picking up clams, and we would search that forest and we'd find an area where there was a lot of clam shells. We found a lot of oyster shells. We found oysters that were up on the beach, off the beach. I mean, in this area where the oyster wasn't even broken open yet. Now, there are other animals. There are otters and stuff like that will take them and bring them into the forest too. But this is like over the years, there was piles of these shells that were all throughout the forest. So we knew that they were taking them up to this certain area. And a friend of mine, he rented this place just while he was working up there. And that same area, night after night, he would be out there interacting with these creatures. So, again, we were lucky enough to have a lot of interactions. We were lucky enough not to have to go all over North America, but the Sunshine Coast, the Seashell, Secret Cove, Pender Harbor area were great, and still probably are great areas for people to be able to get in there and to be able to research and learn a lot if they do the right things.
We only got about 2 minutes left before we go to break. In regards to the fact that this creature is an omnivore, or we suspect he is, have we seen or heard run-ins with this creature and other wild animals, say deer or rabbits or something along those lines?
Well, I know when we had the scientists up, they found, squirrels with their heads torn off. I think that when we found the deer, a lot of them were split open by the belly, had the legs folded out, so they were eating the organs first. Not a lot of them didn't eat the meat, just the organ, and left the rest of the animal to rot and to be eaten by the forest dwellers, if you want to put it that way. The livers, like my wife is saying, the livers and that were high in B vitamins. Yeah, high in B and vitamins, but we'd find a lot of that would be gone, and I know other places the same thing. Have we found dead rabbits? Or no, we didn't find any of that. But why wouldn't they take them? I do believe they're carnivores. We know that they eat fish. We know they eat shellfish. We had some. We had found some poo, put it that way. That when we examined the shellfish that was in there, they had bite marks, and the bite marks were like human teeth. Your front teeth, but a little bit larger, were broken off and cut off by bite marks, and these were gooey ducks and stuff that we found. So yeah, we found them hand marks that were from wasps in the ground. I believe that they were doing what the chimpanzees do by maybe putting down sticks or whatever to gather these up, or maybe to get the larvae up, or to get the honey out of the ground, however it would work for them. I truly believe that they would hunt baby squirrels during the springtime. That's why we find a lot of trees that were bent over and held down.
Right. Robert, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Robert Kennedy, our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking Bigfoot for another half hour before we get to the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave coming on up.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Hey fans, it's Dave Scott. Do I have something for you to check out? A great documentary about legendary Mexican investigative journalist Jaime Maussan and his search for the truth about UFOs. Beyond the Spectrum, Maussan's UFO files can be found on Amazon Prime. It's free to watch if you're a member. You might even hear me in it. So check out Beyond the Spectrum, only on Amazon Prime.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacey, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
From the mile-high mountains of Colorado to all of you around the world, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I invite you to stick around spacedoutradio.com for Saturday and Sunday nights where I host Spaced Out Weekend. Let me take you on a wild ride of weird and strange topics, from ghosts and ETs to remote viewing, psychic phenomena, and so much more. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time on Spaced Out Weekend, where we own the night.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Melinda Leslie joins us tomorrow night. We're going to talk about ufology, what's going on in the world regarding UFOs, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia. KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon. KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. And in Ridgecrest, California. Hi to everyone listening in on KZFX 93.7 FM. On the digital side, we're proud to be with Revolution Radio. Thank you so much for tuning us in. Don't forget, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Synecocratical. Synecocratical is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you that are coming. You just got to be patient. Check in with the website a lot. The Gavinator is working on it, and right now we have the news up. You can listen to the show. We got a lot more coming very, very soon. Robert Kennedy is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking Bigfoot, Sasquatch. What is this mountainous man living in the forests of British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, wherever it may be? Tell me about it. Robert, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me back. I wanted to share about, we're throwing things at the people out there and saying, hey, this is what is going on. These are things that they eat. These are things they do. And as the break happened, I was really thinking, and there's two things here. You can take it all face value. You can believe and listen to what you're hearing. But if you go back into the forest and follow some of these directions, something's going to happen. But you got to be skeptical of yourself and what you're hearing. You got to make sure that this is not something else, but it is has to do with Bigfoot or Sasquatch, however you want to put it. I was saying that there's a point in time where we put out 3 or 4 boxes of apples, and we had the elk come in and really begin to forage on the apple. But that area became very high and frequent in interactions with the Sasquatch, with these creatures that they moved in, and it ended up where we put out dog food, and we came into this area one evening. It was around 5 o'clock. It was in the month of October, And we drove through quietly and slowly. And earlier on I said, these creatures recognize the sound of a vehicle. Well, this is one of these times where the creature recognized the sound of the vehicle. We believed that the creature was a rogue male. We had driven down the road, and we'd driven back slowly. And as we drove back slowly, we began to notice in the open this black figure. We thought it was a bear at first, but we noticed it was upright. And while we got closer and closer as we slowly drove, this creature was trying to crouch behind a rock, and we noticed a ear-like, human-like ear that was black. We noticed that the conical head, the forehead, the muscles that come up, but it wasn't huge or large. We believed that at the point in time it was about 6 feet until we got to the area afterwards and noticed that it had to be a little bit taller. I wouldn't even say it was over 7 feet, but it wasn't wide. It was more thin, but yet it had beautiful black, shiny hair that was long and streamy. You could see it on the arm streaming down, but we noticed the muscles that come from the neck down into the shoulder. The pec muscles wasn't female, it was a male. This creature, too, wouldn't look at us. But, we got this. We were there we had a camera. And I say this because I don't want people to think that we're fishing a story. We had a camera there that we didn't even pick up. We were so focused in on the creature. And I decided after 15 minutes that we were going to race around with the car and try to get a picture or try to get this creature to move and get right in the open, and it just slipped away into the forest and never seen it again. So, and again, we believe it was a young rogue male. That's one of our best encounters that we've ever had. My 2 kids were in the back of the car. My wife was sitting beside me, and we're all of us were so focused in on this creature. And that area now, and I will tell you where it is. It's at Half Moon Bay. It's up by the beaver ponds. I invite people to go up there, and during the evening through the summertime, just to sit there. The BFRO had its first exhibition there. There were 25 people there that got to interact for 3 nights with these creatures there. So, again, like I said, I invite you to go up there, grab a lawn chair, sit down, be quiet. We used to take people into areas, put them in a lawn chair, just sit there, be quiet, say nothing. Let the night come in. Don't have bags of chips rustling around or cans of pop where you're popping open. You try to be as quiet as you can be. It's like a hunter in a deer stand. And these creatures they're going to know that you're there. But what they're going to do is, because you're not showing any aggressive sign or any manner of coming towards them, they're going to react with one another, and you're going to pick up on what they do and how they do it. And it can be, I'm not going to say it's going to happen all the time, but you may have that encounter that we used to have. This fellow Ricardo that I brought in, he was from up north in Alberta, the oil industry. He was expecting he was going to see a footprint. That whole weekend, we got to interact with the creatures. We filmed part of it where the creature was running up the bank. I was hiding behind another bank, and Ricardo was knocking on a tree, and it was interacting, screaming at us. But that following night, there were 4 of us sitting in lawn chairs in that same area, being very, very quiet, and boom, it happened. The creatures came very close to us, and Ricardo had a feeling that there was a creature right on the road edge. He turns his light on, there it was. He ended up drawing a picture of it. Again, he had a camera there. Nobody got up and took pictures. It happened so quickly. Our documentary we did, we had a camera crew that was with us in the forest. We talked about Meldrum tonight, talked about bluff charging and aggressive behavior. We had a male Sasquatch, and we believed it to be male, come and do what the great apes do, the silverbacks do, where he gave us, he showed his display of dominance, went around us, went through the forest. When the forest, and this was a large creature, went around us, came through the forest, shook the trees, came around the other side of us, and stood there for a few minutes, and then left and went down the road and then sat there. I told everybody at them just to put your head down. We had tables set up. They were getting ready to set up camp, and this happened. And that night, a few of the guys went down the road to see if the creature was still around, and boom, there he was, doing his dominant display, making sure that we were towing to him in his territory. A night after that, another fellow came in that was a scientist that, through his camera, his night vision camera, got to see the creature, probably about 100 yards away from him. He said, his reaction was, it's a man, it's a man, it's a man. What's a man doing in the middle of the forest, and deep in the forest, in a deepy, swampy area that has no lights, has no flashlight, walking around, And a friend of ours that was behind him had an infrared scope that he was using to see through. As soon as he turned that infrared scope on, that creature was gone. It was able to detect that infrared scope. So, again, for the people who want to go out there, who want to experience, there's so many other people have so many different other tactics to be able to arouse or do whatever they want. But, look for the sign, be prepared to be quiet, and you'll be shocked that you don't have to go 100, 200 miles out in the forest. Sometimes some of the best stuff is going to happen close to towns and maybe even close to parks or campsites. So there you are. I kind of lose my thought here once in a while, Dave.
Oh, no worries. No worries whatsoever, my friend. My question for you leading up to this then would be, with the habitats and with what you have been able to discover about this creature, do you feel confident in knowing that we are dealing with some sort of primate, or do you think there is something supernatural with it?
On a personal level, I would say we're dealing with a primate. When I talk to people back and forth, I don't want to mislead them. So I stick to the grounds of primatal, their habitat and the conservational part of it all. But there is something there, when we read about and when we talk to Native people, First Nations, there's something there that is spiritual for them. We've had some things that have happened, and I'll admit to it that is unexplainable. But I don't want to put someone on a shoestring or a thin wire and say, hey, this is something else. Because I know a lot of people that are out there that are in with this infrasounding thing, and it's questionable. And why again put something like this that we know that exists, it's alive, it's out there? It's like Jess said, we need to essentially get something that is concrete first, and eventually work its way out. Is there a spiritual side to it all? Yeah, there could be. Could they shape shift? Could they do certain things? Sure, they could. In that, can we believe that? Well, at this point in time, we could believe that they are doing those things, and there's some that say they are. But right now, for most of us, we have found that they're flesh and blood. That we believe and feel that they're a primate. What we have seen primeval looks, behaviors, primeval. When you the types of foods that are in the forest for them to eat, you find the primates are doing similar things to where we found nests. We call them nest beddings. We find that they get under big cedar trees during the wet times. They get under logs. We found impressions in the ground. That there was substantially a heavy animal there. We found that they would build things too to keep themselves undercover in areas when they moved around. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's by experience. That's what we experienced.
A lot of people ask about the aggression, and we talked to Dr. Jeff Meldrum about that in the first hour, Robert, as we got about 8 minutes left before we got to say goodnight to you. Robert Kennedy is our guest tonight, BC Bigfoot researcher. The aggression that people talk about, that there are stories that this animal or whatever it is has killed people, that may be going way back in the day. It may be responsible for a lot of missing people. That is one of the theories that David Paulides has. What is your thoughts on this? Should people be wary of going into areas where there are known Sasquatch activity?
Well, I've heard a lot of people say that they've been chased out of areas, and we've had rocks thrown at us. We've had sticks thrown at us. I think if they truly wanted to hurt us or kill us, they would have been easily been able to do that. The aggression, I think they're very territorial. I think they're more aggressive with their own kind. I think they're cautious with human beings. I think they understand the point of diseases. Now, Jeff would probably say something different to that. And I'm not a science guy. I'm not a university-educated man like some of the other scientists are. But, when you look back at the great apes in Africa and stuff, and they are now saying that they're holding back from humans. They've caught some diseases from humans. People leaving shirts and that out in the forest, and they're dying off. Did this happen when Europeans came to North America? We know that First Nations people caught diseases and stuff like that too and died off, and had passed away and died. Could this have happened with these creatures? We know in the areas in Seychelles and on the Sunshine Coast, during the 70s, there wasn't a lot of sightings and stuff, but as soon as they introduced the elk in the mid-80s, and the populations of elk grew, also the Sasquatch populations grew. And then again, we had more interactions with the creatures and have been through the years. But the aggression part, people ask me sometimes, what do you do when they throw rocks at you? I throw them back. The reason why is because I want to have that reaction with them. I have never felt that I was going to lose my life. I felt scared. I've been terrified at times because of the unknown. Since through the years that I've got to know how they react and how they are and what they do, I felt more comfortable. There's times when I was sleeping in my trailer in the campground, and we had one creature come up right beside the camper, and I could see him in the silhouette of the moon light, and I was freaking out, terrified, but I also had the notion to go and open the door and yell at the creature and tell him,
right,
man, you're scaring me. So for me, I had the comfortableness, but yet cautious. Be cautious. It is a wild animal, as we can say for now. You don't, like Jeff said, you don't want to be throwing spears at it and expecting it not to defend itself or feeling that it's harmed in any way. I mean, we have the
sense.
creatures. Yeah, it does. It makes good sense, right? We've had them come close. That night that Ricardo saw the creature, what stopped it from, putting a display of aggression on towards us? But yet it didn't. So have people gone missing? Again, it's a theory. Everybody wants to know what happens to missing children or people that have gone camping and then disappear. Who knows? The Osterman story, he was picked up by a creature and brought into a cavernous area. He had to put some coffee and chewing tobacco together to get himself out of there. But they never came after him afterwards. Again, it's a skeptical. You don't know if it is or if it isn't happening. But we've brought a lot of people in the woods, and nobody's ever gotten hurt. So,
do you worry about that?
I do. I feel responsible when I invite someone to come and experience what we experienced. I feel very responsible and want to know where everybody is at all times in communication with them, and how people. If someone doesn't come back during the evening, we've sent people out to make sure that they're still there and still alive. So we do worry. But there's other components in the woods. There's other animals. There's wolves. We were one time doing sound calling of elk and getting the elk to react, but then all of a sudden we had wolves beginning to circle us because of our call. And we got a little bit terrified about that. In the area, once was no grizzly bears on the Sunshine Coast. Now it seems to be, they have come back into the area. So that was a bit on our minds too. Again, when we noticed through the research that when bears were around, we didn't have Sasquatches. When the Sasquatches made their presence known, the bears were gone. So in a way that it helped us too.
We only got about a minute and a bit left with you tonight. And I want to say, Robert, thank you so much for coming on in. If people come across a Sasquatch, what should they do?
I think if you come across a Sasquatch, I think you should just sit down, be very quiet, and just let that creature have its space. Let him make the decisions what he wants to do, and just take in the special moment and special time that you're gonna get. Now, we got a lot of times where we got to be able to interact with creatures because we spent a lot of time in the woods, months and weeks, and the hours were more than a person can go there on a weekend or a one day. A lady, Marianne, she teaches at the University of Alberta. She came out. She's an art teacher, and she had an interaction. She asked what to do. I said, sit down, and she sat down, and that creature mimicked some kind of sounds and noise to her, and she was very frightened. And she said, please don't scare me, don't scream, because I'll pee my pants. And that's what she said back, right? Her husband Dave had a camera. But
Robert, I got to cut you off right there. We got to get going.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert. That's
Thanks for having me, Dave.
The Thought of the Dave coming up next.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. to SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch. Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today. Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Every Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Want to remind all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can always go to our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. They are free for you. All I ask in return is to hit that subscribe button. At our website, spacedoutradio.com. You can check out all of our SOR Newswire news there, put together by Captain Shirk. We got new features coming very, very soon. The Gavinator is working on it. Let's get to the weird, the wacky, the WTF, those head scratchers in the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get into the weird, the strange, the odd. And we're going to start off with a former guest on Spaced Out Radio. Now, Dr. James Fetzer is a major, major conspiracy theorist. And we had him on the show about 4 times. Unlike some trolls on Twitter who are saying that he has been on as a regular guest, that is simply not true. The last time we had him on was, I believe, in October of 2017. Anyways, he's in a little bit of trouble right now because a Dane County judge in literally is really... Well, let's just get it out in the open. Dane County judge took longtime conspiracy theorist Dr. James Fetzer to task, along with his co-defendant, defamed the father of a victim of the Sandy Hook massacre, and allowed a trial for damages against the men and to move ahead. So James Fetzer and Mike Palachek of Saginaw, Michigan, edited the 2016 edition of the book, Nobody Died at Sandy Hook. Now, this alleges Leonard Posner circulated a fraudulent copy of his son Noah Posner's death certificate. Fetzer also co-authored a chapter in the book and has repeated in a blog and claimed that Posner circulated a fake death certificate. Noah Posner was just 6 years old and the youngest victim of the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre that left 27 dead, including 21 school children. Now, Fetzer is a professor emeritus of philosophy from the University of Minnesota Duluth, claims it never happened, and believes it was a FEMA event. Now, during a 4-hour-long hearing before Circuit Judge Frank Remington, Posner's attorney Jacob Zimmerman offered evidence to counter Fetzer's contention that a death certificate for the young child, an image which was reprinted in Fetzer's book, is fake. Among other things, Zimmerman pointed out to separate state and local processes for issuing death certificates to explain why a state file number didn't appear. So there's a big argument going on. Now, let's face it. The only thing that matters is there's 20 kids dead and 6 adults, or 21 kids and 6 adults. That's all that matters. I couldn't imagine walking into my son's school with that kind of tragedy happening and trying to figure out, is my son dead or alive? So Posner is seeking $1 million in damages. Fetzer is also a conspiracy theorist for 9/11. JFK, and other horrendous school shootings. Now, I don't mind. I've matured in this field a little bit, actually quite a bit. I don't mind a good conspiracy theory, but leave kids out of it. Leave kids out of it. That's all I really got to say about that. You know, it's kind of disgusting. It's kind of disgusting, and you know, that's why we haven't had Dr. James Fetzer on our show in the last couple of years. He's also come out as a Holocaust denier, which I do not believe, I don't think is healthy. It's pretty obvious it happened. It's a gross part of mankind's history. So that's why we stopped bringing him on. Got a little too reckless. And he won't come on this show. Not because I don't think he's a great guy. Okay? But his political stance on certain world events that have really affected people, a lot of people, do not sit with the stance of myself or this radio show. So, we're not bringing him on. And won't bring him on. So we'll see where this case goes. Harry Houdini trick recreated didn't go too well for a stuntman in India. Attempting to recreate a trick by Harry Houdini has been declared a disaster after a stuntman is now missing and feared dead a day after he reportedly jumped shackled into a river. Shansal Lahiri, who is also known by his stage name Wizard Mandrake, reportedly jumped into the Hooghly River on Sunday while tied up with a rope and steel chains. Before the plunge, he was asked by a local photographer why he'd risk his life for magic. Lahiri responded to the report, "If I can free myself, it will be magic. If not, it will be tragic." There are conflicting reports about whether Lahiri jumped into the broad part of the river from the Howrah Bridge in Kolkata, or he was dropped by a crane. The plan was for him to swim back to shore after untying himself, but he never reappeared. Now, reports from researchers say, "We have searched the area extensively, but neither Sarkar nor his body can be found." He had clearly mentioned the act was to happen on a boat or vessel, but there was no connection to water. Hence, we allowed him permission. However, he vaguely mentioned an extra act, which he did not clarify, so police are investigating. Sticking in the Middle East, I don't know if you saw this, but this is hilarious. So, last week, there was a live-streamed press conference by Pakistani Regional Minister Shaukat Yousafzai. And the event attracted attention internationally for the wrong reasons. While Yousafzai addressed the public at his weekly conference, a volunteer on the team accidentally activated the cat filter on Facebook Live. It's actually quite funny because here's the minister on camera trying to be serious, and he's got the digital cat ears, the whiskers, the rosy cheeks. His mustache looks impeccable. Even though viewers noticed the gaffe and tried to alert the office of the comments, the stream continued for several minutes with the filter on, which also added the effect of two officials beside Yousafzai. Yeah. None to say, there was an official announcement of apology, calling it human error. And the PTISM disciplinary committee probed the matter firsthand and concluded the incident was human error by one of our hardworking volunteers. All necessary actions have been taken to avoid such incident in the future, with a great emphasis on strict enforcement of SOPs and protocol for live coverage by ground teams. You got to see this. It's hilarious. He does look cute, though. They even put the little black nose on him. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 allegedly disintegrated into confetti, and captain appears to have run amok, a new report says. I don't know if I buy this one, because I am a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. The ill-fated flight, piloted by a lonely and sad captain who experimented with a flight profile almost identical to the aircraft's final doomed path, one that left a slim chance of finding remains or clues of what really happened in the sky for this calamitous evening, a new report reveals. In the July issue of The Atlantic, writer and aviation specialist William Langswich delves into what happened. At least this is his theory. The night the aircraft went missing, the Boeing 777 carried 239 people from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, vanished March 8th, 2014, presumed to have crashed in the far southern Indian Ocean. A safety report into the disaster by the international team last July revealed the plane was likely steered off course deliberately by someone and flown for several hours after communications were severed. The night the aircraft went missing, control was seized in the cockpit during a 20-minute period between 1:01 a.m. and 1:21 a.m., and radar records show the autopilot was probably switched off. Now, there are people out there who believe that this plane was actually landed at a secret Air Force base. However, if you look, the flight was supposed to head north to Beijing, but was found almost near Madagascar in Africa. That's a little off course. A little off course. We'll have to see where this goes. Here's one for the dumb category out of South Carolina. A man has been charged with branding sharks like cattle off the South Carolina coast. News outlets cite South Carolina Natural Resources officials who say a 56-year-old man was charged with illegal tagging of a saltwater fish last week. Now, the misdemeanor can have a fine of up to $200. Officials say they were alerted about the brandings last month as anglers off the South Carolina coast began catching sharks with a symbol that looked like a cursive letter burnt just below the dorsal fins. Officials saw photos of such sharks circulating on social media. The brands could have been made with a propane torch or dry ice. The suspect is allegedly being cooperative right now with authorities. But who does that to a shark? Who thinks that's funny? Why would you do that? It's not like you could corral them. I don't know. Just the sheer ignorance of hurting an animal like that. I don't get it. All right. Continuing on here. Let's head over to Goodwater, Alabama. A Texas longhorn raised in Alabama has broken the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest horns measured tip to tip. Pancho Villa's horns are 10 feet, 7.4 inches from tip to tip. It was measured on May 8th. The group said Pancho not only holds the world's record for the largest spread on a living steer, but also beat previous records to claim the record for the largest spread ever. The owners, who raised Pancho, the Pope family, realized he could be a record breaker when he was 4. The family says his horns were growing straight out instead of curving up like most longhorns. While the horns look intimidating, they say Pancho's just a big pet. As a local celebrity, people stop by often with treats for Pancho, his favorites, apples, carrots, and apparently he loves marshmallows. You gotta see these horns. It's one horny bull. It's actually a good-looking bull. You'd think, though, that it would hurt its head. 5.5 feet of horns on each side? Guess he's used to it. 2 fossil teeth found in northwestern Canada have confirmed that hyenas once lived in the frozen Arctic, probably hunting or scavenging caribou and mammoth across the tundra about 1 million years ago. Discovered off the banks of the Old Crow River in the 1970s, the newly described fossils are the northernmost evidence that hyenas have been found on this side of the hemisphere. Until now, the northernmost hyenas were found in North America. Well, their fossils were. That was in Kansas, about 2,500 miles south of the Yukon Territory. The newfound fossils belong to animals in the extinct genus Chasmoporthes, which lived between 800,000 and 1.4 million years ago. During this time, the conditions in the Arctic may have been even harsher than they are today, with near permanent snow and ice throughout the year. Interesting. And on that note, let's get to the thought of the day. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we post a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, as we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What would it take to get more scientists like Dr. Jeff Meldrum involved in proving Sasquatch? Big question. I'm going to start off with Kevin. Bigfoot people need to stop the constant fighting and share data. Without it, what's the point? Dr. Meldrum is a brave man to navigate these waters, as at times his community turns on him. Anyone else would look at it and say, no thanks. Heidi. Funding. Academia is crying out for funding. Can't write a paper without good research, and you can't research with no funding. Bigfoot groups need to perhaps start a GoFundMe to pay for proper scientific research, and those results will garner more research in the subject. Heather. The mysterious DNA collected needs to be taken seriously. Too many labs won't touch it, or they conveniently say it's contaminated. Drones and trails with FLIR cameras should be readily available for tracking, and both should be provided by the government free of charge to explore individuals or groups in the name of science. It is expensive to invest in cryptozoology, but it should be taken seriously as sciences study in school, just like biology. She says the Smithsonian should release any and all old skeletons or fossils of giants, tiny hobbit humanoids, unknown creatures, but the government, school curriculum, and Smithsonian are all controlled by the same small groups, so it's highly unlikely. Paul. They have done all they can at this point with DNA. Thousands of track casts, convincing film footage. I hate to say it, as I don't believe in it. We need a body. Catherine. A reason that is worthwhile for science to actually check it out. Alfred agrees, says we need to pay more cash into this thing. Jeremy. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Meldrum. Yeah, so am I. He's a pretty awesome guy. All right, moving on. Gail, there must be enough evidence to warrant financial backing in academia. Best evidence would be a Bigfoot, which does not have to be a dead one. Why not devise a means to capture one alive, tag it with an attached GPS, release it back to its home, then track him? Kimmy, more great evidence like the Patterson-Gimlin film. Jade, could someone please give him a body, dead or alive? Preferably alive, though, much more interesting. Michael gets the final word. More hair samples. Push for DNA analysis as vigorously as you can. All right. Thought of the Dave happens every night. Make sure you go on my Facebook or on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio and check out the Thought of the Dave for every day, so maybe you could get a chance to hear your response on the air as well. Big thank you to Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Robert Kennedy for talking Bigfoot tonight on Spaced Out Radio. What a pleasure. I would love to get Dr. Meldrum on for a little bit longer. Hopefully next time we could do that. Also in the news, we got Captain Shirk taking care of all of our news. You can find it at spacedoutradio.com, so make sure you check that on out. Tomorrow night on the show, Melinda Leslie is going to join us. We're going to talk ufology, the status of it right now. It's pretty ugly out there as people are searching for the truth to this UFO phenomena. I hope you will be joining us, because I'll be here. Hope you will be too. 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, Dangerfield, Texas, KDNF AM 1560, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and on Revolution Radio digitally. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, in our chat rooms, wherever you may be. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for doing your part to make us bigger and better every single night. Because together, my friends, as my voice is going on me again, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now, Mr. Bumblefoot.
I know you're out there somewhere.
We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good night, everybody. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Hopefully my voice does too. See you then. Good night.
Watching you for